All right, we are live, and ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Dolphins legend Richmond Webb. Man, how you doing, man?
CG, how you doing today? I'm good. I'm good.
Oh, doing well, man. Hey, I guess like they say, man, they all age like wine, like on these type of days, right?
I hope that is the case. I mean, I appreciate the compliment, and also congratulations to your 49ers as well, making it back to the Super Bowl. That was a great game yesterday against Detroit. So it was a real good NFC Championship game. But congratulations on that. Y'all got the job done.
Oh yeah, it was. Speaking of you, man, like you are a seven-time All Pro, but what got you into playing football in the early part?
Yeah, CG man, I grew up in Dallas, Texas, and growing up there, I was a huge Dallas Cowboy fan, going back to Roger Staubach, Tony Dorsett, Drew Pearson, those guys. So Texas is real big in football, just like it is in California, and just had a love for the game, and then started playing in middle school, and even when I was a little kid, played in the at the park. We go play with a football or whatever. So I always played it and started playing organized football in middle school, seventh grade, and high school, and then actually got a scholarship to go to Texas A&M, and then went there, and my career kind of took off from there, and then got drafted by the Dolphins, and then had an opportunity to play 13 years in the NFL. So I got a chance to live up my dream and do it for a long time. So I'm definitely fortunate.
Oh, it's got to be forever grateful. But you grew up in the state of Texas. I was born in Brownsville, Texas, which is on
Way at the
this.
bottom. I know we.
It's the Mexican territory, like they say out there. But yeah, but like they say, it's pretty tough in Texas. They take it very serious with football out there.
That's the main sport. Especially a lot in the South. I went to school with some guys that were like from like New York and Chicago, and I guess because it gets so cold up there, a lot of them were like basketball players, and I always had really good basketball players. Some guys play football, but it seemed like basketball was more the major sport like that. But yeah, it's always been football, and love the sport, and been playing it since I was a kid.
Yeah, you've been playing it forever, but there was a couple of dudes that I interact with. That vanilla funny guy, he did say something funny that was true. He says you do have the reference of the barbecue uncle guy with the character from the Medea character. You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So what was it like just to block for Dan Marino? What was he like a person?
Yeah. Oh man, great teammate. I learned a lot from Dan, and I think the thing that people talk about, how good he was. I think a lot of people don't understand the type of work ethic he had, and the time, the mental preparation, and everything went into it for him to play at a high level consistently on Sunday, and to play 18 years in the NFL. That's accomplishment within itself. But it just showed me how he approached the game. His mental preparation, and then when you see a guy that's the guy on the team, and that's the way his work ethic. You got to match his intensity or at his level, and so I think that's one of the reasons we had a lot of success. Coming in with him, Mark Duper, Mark Clayton, those were guys on offense. So the standard was already set. We just had to fall in line, and when you see those guys having success, preparing that way week in and week out, then you say, okay, well, I need to at least do the same thing, and I think that's why we had success while playing with those guys.
Yeah, if he had a ring, I'd definitely put him at the top of the list. Like I've said it, I told you this behind the scenes. I don't know why I would put Marino a little above Montana. I know I might get some heat for it, but I think Marino had the talent, like the arm talent, everything. I mean, you look at today's NFL, you look at the likes of Patrick Mahomes and those other quarterbacks. Dan Marino was ahead of his time, and he was
Yeah,
breaking records way before everybody else.
ain't no question, and I tell people that all the time. And for me coming from Texas A&M, where we were kind of a run heavy team, ran a little bit of the option. Offenses were different back then, and so to transition and go to Miami, where we threw the ball majority of the time. A lot of people say y'all need to run the ball more, but when you got a prolific passer like that, it's hard to try to cater all that talent and this and that, and a lot of times we could go out and exploit teams, and they just couldn't. I mean, he could just rip a defense apart. So it's all in the process and the players you got, and you always try to maximize the talent that you have. And I thought Coach Shula and the staff, they did a really good job of maximizing Dan's potential and this and that. And we had a lot of success. So um, yeah, I was fortunate to play with him and some of those guys. So I'm definitely grateful.
Yeah, it had to be great to play for Don Shula, he was a huge reason of the Dolphins' success. When you looked at the 1972 season, where they were the only team in NFL history to go perfect,
No, nobody. The Patriots came close a few
they
years
came
back.
close, but nowhere near it.
Yeah, they came close. But yeah, and I've met some of the guys that played on that '72 team, and man, just to hear the stories. And Coach Shula was a lot tougher back in the '70s than he was when I got there in the '90s. But to accomplish something like that, I don't think people really realize how hard it is to actually go through the complete season undefeated and then make it through the playoffs and make it to the Super Bowl all the way and finish with an unblemished record. I think that's why it hadn't been done again. And now I think you play a few more games. I think it'll be tough, but yeah, they hold that in high regard, and they should. I mean, nobody else has been able to do it. A couple teams came close, but
Yeah.
they the lone one, so they can ride out in the sunset with that one. So yeah, that's truly special for them.
Yeah, anytime a team that doesn't go perfect, you see the 72 Dolphins pop a champagne or something like that. It's like, yeah, you can't go wrong with it. You can't break the record. You can't break the record.
You can't break the record, and it's perfect. It's perfection, and that's what you strive for as an athlete. And most times, you're not going to achieve perfection, but you're going to achieve a high level. But man, they were able to do it, and I don't think they take it for granted, because I think it was the year before they didn't go undefeated that they came up short, maybe in the playoffs or maybe in the Super Bowl. I can't remember, but that put that spark in them to never take anything for granted and to be able to finish it. And I think it was a couple games where they really came close to where they might actually, get beat, but to be able to finish it and do what they did and go through that adversity and to finish the way they did, I would be just as proud as they are today. So yeah, I take my hat off to those guys.
Yeah, but when you look at the current Dolphins team, what do you look at? Like just from a fan perspective, just because you follow the team a lot.
Yeah, one thing was, we got some rebuilding to do. I was definitely happy that we had got Coach Fangio, because I knew we needed to fix some things defensively, and then those guys kind of bought into his system, and it took about, I guess, week 5 or 6, and we got Jalen Ramsey back, and he jumped right in and started making plays. So I knew that was going to be special. The offense, I think the thing I was, really paying attention to was Tua going to be able to stay healthy, because he had took a couple of hits the previous year before. And I thought he did an outstanding job. I think he recognized, there are times when you just have to get rid of the ball. If nobody's open, just get rid of it, throw away, and sometimes get out to protect yourself. So I could see growth there, maturity there. And then I think Coach McDaniels is just a player's coach. Everything I hear about him is all positive. The guys love him. And a lot of people, if they watch Hard Knocks, the second half of the season, they got a little peek or view of what goes on day to day during the season. And I thought that was really good. I thought it was tough, because typically, they normally film that during the preseason, but during the season, you don't try to give away no secrets. And then so I was like, oh, but I watched it and it was actually pretty good. So they did a good job. I'm just wondering who they're going to have on Hard Knocks next year. But Dolphins did that and got it off their back. So it was good.
Well, at least other fans get to see what it was like with the Dolphins and all that stuff. I mean, Mike McDaniels, him as a coach, I mean, we've seen him in the coaching staff with Shanahan, so he's got a little bit of that coaching tree with him and all that other stuff. So what he's bringing to this Dolphins culture is exactly how you guys are running, but little differences. You got those speedy receivers, You got
Yeah.
fast running. I mean, you got a couple fast running backs and all that stuff. Like Raheem Mostert, to me, when healthy, he's always been a good back. Just never was able to stay healthy. But since he played for you guys, he's been having a really good year.
Yeah, and he actually got an opportunity to be the featured back, where I think at other places he's been good, but he hadn't had an opportunity to get the reps that he's gotten here, and he's proved that he's worthy and capable of definitely carrying that load. So I was definitely helping for him. But yeah, it's like you said, you got Waddle, you got Tyreek, you got Moser, you got Devon Achan. I mean, he just loaded with speed, and you know I say hats off to Coach Shanahan because he came off that tree, and then D'Amico Ryans, the defense coordinator, I'm here in Houston. He did a tremendous job with the Texans this year. So they're learning. I think what I really like about a coach is when you have success on the field, but when you can develop your assistants to become coordinators, to become other
Head
head
coaches.
coaches, and they go out to be have success and stuff. That's when you're saying, okay, this guy is something different. He's not just a guy, and you got to share some things that typically a lot of people want. So he wants to see other people succeed as well, but he's doing a tremendous job out there in
Yeah, a lot
San
of changes.
Francisco.
Yeah, a lot of changes. Even with different coordinators, we still are making adjustments. Even with a lot of the guys. I mean, yeah, getting to the Super Bowl wasn't an easy task. I mean, if you would have told me we were down by 17, if you thought we were going to come back and win this game, I probably would have just said, I don't know, man. But
Yeah.
you just got to take it one quarter at a time or whatever the plays go by. So it was by far a good experience. I know, like, when you look at how these teams can build on, man, next year is a bright future for certain teams. So I think if Miami wants to still contend, I think they just
Mhm.
have to fix a little bit more of that defense a little bit better.
Yeah, and also we had a ton of injuries. We
Yeah.
lost all our three edge rush. It's just certain things
Hard to overcome.
that's hard to overcome, and but we still had a chance to compete and finish a little bit better, I thought, than what we did. But yeah, injuries part of the game. Sometimes you get more than your fair share of them, but for the most part, we were able to kind of adapt and keep things going and put a band-aid on certain situations and still have success. So fixing little things on defense and just become a little bit more probably consistent the second half of the season on offense. And I think we'll make another step, another stride. And that's what it's part of. Sometimes it's a process. And I think a lot of people want it fixed just like that overnight and saying, okay, this guy here, take us to the Super Bowl. And it doesn't necessarily work like that most of the time. So as long as you're making progress in the right direction, that's the main thing.
Yeah, it's about making progress in the foundation, all that stuff. But so since you were playing for Shula, what was it like playing for Jimmy Johnson? Wasn't he there in
He was. I played for both, and probably more partial to Shula because he drafted me this and that. But Jimmy Johnson was a good coach. Came in and really worked on the defensive side of the ball and really got that going. And really built that defense with like Zach Thomas, Jason Taylor, Patrick Surtain, Sam Madison, Brock Marion. I mean, we were loaded over there, and we had success, got to the playoffs, but had a couple injuries at time that we couldn't get over the hump. But I thought he was really, I understood the game. He was really smart, and he understood that it was certain things that, like Coach Shula, don't do things to beat yourselves. And when I say that, mental errors, penalties, little things that can, instead of it being a first down, now you're looking at 1st and 15 or 1st and 20. Keep yourself out of, those type of positions, and it gives you a chance to win. And, he'd always say, I think it was back then, like 80% of the games were won by like 3 points are left. So that's a field goal. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. So long as you do things not to beat yourselves, you really put yourself in a higher percentage chance to win games. And the way we prepared and stuff for the games, we were prepared. So that's why I had some really good head coaches.
Yeah, that's good how
Mhm.
you brought like those two old school coaches, they brought a good culture. Like Shula was a successful coach in the early part of his career, and then Jimmy Johnson, it wasn't too long. He won the Super Bowl with Dallas and he came into Miami. And I just thought he deserved his chance to be in the Ring of Honor with Dallas, and I think Dallas did the right thing for once.
Yeah, it was. It was. I think it was the way he left.
In bad
I think
terms.
they're really good friends, and went to college together, played college football, and then bring him to the Cowboys, have that type of success together, and then let your egos clash, and then, like you said, he's definitely deserving to go into the Ring of Honor in Dallas. They just did it this year, but to kind of put bygones, let bygones be bygones, and do what's right. I think I thought that was excellent. So I was happy he got put in the Ring of Honor there.
Yeah, it was something to do the right thing, and then you look back at your other playing career. You went with the Bengals from what was it like playing for Cincinnati?
It was different. Man, they had a young team. I think the thing with the Bengals, and I tell people this all the time, they had as much talent as anybody I played with it in Miami. I think the thing was, I think all throughout the '90s, they really didn't have a winning season. So it was always, I think it was more mental up there than physical. And it seemed like as long as the game started out and we were doing okay, but if we had a fumble or interception, it would almost, the mindset was set to where they would find a way to lose the game rather than win it. But I was up there 2 years. They allowed me to continue to play a game I love, and they treated me with, the utmost respect, treated me kindly, and I really enjoyed my teammates and stuff up there. And then I think when right after I left, that's when Marvin Lewis came in, and I give him a lot of credit for changing the mentality and getting it focused to where now they're not the same Bengals that they had been for so long. And then, hey, a few years ago they were, in the Super Bowl. So it's definitely not the Bengals, but loyal fans. I love living up there the 2 years out there. People, just friendly people. It was a great place to raise a family and great place to play football when you got diehard fans like that. So I enjoyed Cincinnati 2 years I was up there.
Yeah, it had to be nice. I'm pretty sure when you had Chad Johnson as your teammate, he was only there for 1 year with you, right? Or two.
Yeah, I think Chad was one or two, but yeah, Chad was a rookie coming in, and we had a connection because he was actually from Miami, Liberty City, and so he told me that, which I didn't know because he played at Oregon State, so I just didn't put it. He said, "Yeah, I'm from Miami. I remember this," and he was a little bitty kid when I started playing, but to play with him, it was definitely an honor, and he does an excellent job. He's on a podcast with Shannon Sharp, and he speaks real well and stuff like this. So he's doing extremely well. I'm happy for Chad. Ocho, it was
Yeah.
Chad.
Ocho Cinco, but yeah, the personality wise, I mean, this guy has a great personality. I'm not gonna lie. When he does his own little thing, he has a good fit for entertainment.
He does. Yeah, I mean, he does an excellent job. And, I think a lot of people, if you didn't know him when he was playing, I mean, he's really highly intelligent guy. I mean, you'll perceive him one way, but you start listening to him in the interviews and stuff, you'll be like, man, this guy is really got it. So I'm happy for him, and he's had nothing but success. Really great teammate. And yeah, Chad's my man. Well, Ocho, I keep saying Chad, but it's
Ocho or
Ocho
Chad,
now.
I think it's the same thing.
It's
but
Ocho, yeah.
but speaking of your career, who was the toughest matchup you faced against that you had a hard time with as a
Uh,
competitor?
oh, that's easy, man. It was Buffalo Bills and guy by the name of Bruce Smith, and man, played that guy sometime two, sometime three times a year if we went to the playoffs. But it was just tough. One of the best pass rushers. I put him and Reggie White in a class, by themselves, and I'm glad Reggie was on the opposite side. I didn't have to deal with him. Bruce was enough, but just did everything well and just knew that for 4 quarters you was gonna have hell, and you had to bring it because he was bringing every play. But it helped me raise my level of play playing against a guy of that type of caliber. So um, I think he helped bring the best out of me. So I always look forward to playing against him.
Yeah, Bruce Smith was something else. He was at a different level. I
Yeah.
mean, when it came to being competitive, that division at your time was very good. You had the Buffaloes, the Miamis. I mean,
Yeah.
I think Patriots were starting to come into their own slowly because they were competing for a Super Bowl, but there was just different kind of layers. Like the Jets were whatever they were.
Yeah. Yeah. When I first got there, yeah, you're right. Buffalo, they went to 4 straight Super Bowls, and people normally talk about the offense, but they had a ton of players on defense that were really good, and people talk about them losing the Super Bowl, but to actually go 4 times in a row, even though they didn't win, I always thought they should have possibly won the first one. They had the wide right kick, but man, they would have some really good teams, and I have a lot of tremendous respect for them, even though they were our rivals. I tell people all the time, I didn't like them, but you had to respect what they did because they had some really good football teams.
They brought the best out of you is how you look at it. I mean, not every
Mhm.
game's going to be perfect, but yeah. I mean, that kind of seemed like an obvious answer because Bruce Smith, because I seen a couple of your pictures where you do have a picture of yourself blocking Bruce Smith or him just going towards you or something like that. So, I mean, yeah. So Bruce Smith was definitely like a beast, like just hard to block. Reggie White was something else. I heard he was a religious guy, but he talks religion, but he was such a nice guy. Everybody says he's the
Oh
nicest guy.
yeah. It was, man. He was. I mean, you would watch that guy on film, and they didn't have the same style, but man, they could take over a game. They had that capability as a defensive end, and you just had to respect it. And I think I don't think it was my senior year, maybe my sophomore, junior year. Reggie White actually came to my high school and spoke to us with Fellowship of Christian Athletes and this and that. And then years later, I was at a football camp, and I told him about that. He was easy guy to go up and talk to, this and that, and so he was real good brother, this and that. So I'm just happy he was on the opposite side. I had my hands full enough with Bruce. I didn't need no Reggie.
You didn't want none of that. I don't blame you.
Nah, I had enough. Yeah,
You had
it was
enough of that
good.
guy. But here's a good question. Since you played college at Texas A&M, who was the most competitive opponent that you faced in college?
Man, we had some really good teams. I would probably say our biggest rivalry was University of Texas. But at back then, the University of Houston was good. I was in the Southwest Conference. It doesn't exist anymore. It kind of got split up. It split up and then went to the Big 12, the Big 8, and the Southwest Conference formed the Big 12. But Arkansas had some really good teams. Baylor. Um, so I would probably say Texas, Baylor, U of H, and the University of Texas. But our arch rival was University of Texas. So yeah, we used to. That was a game where if you didn't win any other game, you wanted to win that game. So that's how it was back then. So kind of like
Gotcha.
a Miami, Florida State, Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, Auburn, USC, UCLA. It's one of those type of
Yes,
matchups where
one of those state rivalry types. I
yeah,
mean,
they just don't like each other at all. Mhm.
yeah, it's just like a cross-state rival. You have Texas and Oklahoma who don't like each other.
They call it the Red River Rivalry. Yep,
Yeah,
you
that's what
sure
they call
right.
it. Yeah. Oh, here's something I kind of find interesting. Ask what was his special moment in the game that brought him to tears. I mean, there had to be a game where you had that emotional moment where, like when you win a game like this big, you're like, you have like that moment where it just catches you on your emotional day. You're like, hey, that's a great damn win or something.
That would probably would have been a playoff game. I don't know if it brought me to tears, but I understand the question now. Um, I think the one of the biggest disappointments was when we won the AFC Championship. We had that game at home, and we played Buffalo, and they end up coming to Miami, beating us to go to the Super Bowl. And that was, I think, after the '92 season, that was my third year, and that was a disappointment. And it just reminds me because we had went to the playoffs previously before, and just talking to Dan Marino, like I said, I have such respect for him, and he was like, man, I think my rookie year I went to the Super Bowl, and he said, in his mind, he was thinking, "Oh, I'll be back there next year," and this was like my rookie year, so it was 7, 8 years later. He said I hadn't made it back, so he was always stressing, when you get those opportunities, you got to make the most of them because it's not guaranteed you're gonna ever get back. And he was right. I've only played in one AFC Championship game. We got close in some divisional games we lose, but to actually get to the game you can say, well, we're gonna come back next year. Everybody says we're gonna come back next year, but it's no guarantee you're gonna make it back that far. So that probably was one of them that was really tough to lose that game and to lose it at home because you figure with the home field and stuff, you should be able to close it out and then at least have an opportunity to play in the Super Bowl. But we didn't. But that probably be that game there.
Yeah, those are the opportunities that just slip away, and you want to be able to like capitalize it or something. So it's like, I mean, now that you look at teams who kind of miss out opportunities, like you look at the Detroit Lions, they could have had a chance to seize the moment and get to the Super Bowl because they haven't been to the conference in over 32 years, and you can't take nothing for granted.
Yeah, they hadn't been to the playoffs. Yeah, it was just, and to make it to the, and you always know going on the road is tougher, but it's kind of like Baltimore. You know, Baltimore had the best record in the AFC, and they played Kansas City yesterday, and then to let that one kind of slip away, not play as well or whatever, have a team come in and take it away from you. You congratulate them, but that one hurts when you let them get away like that because you know how hard you work to get to that game, and no matter who wins, the other team is going to be upset because it's not easy getting there. And then when you get there, and then you kind of, if you feel like you let it slip away or they just was better than you, it's tough. You congratulate them, but in your mind, you got to process it because you're like, man, we were just that close. If we make a play here or there, possibly could have been there, but we actually didn't do it. So you kind of go back and reflect on times like that. But yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, it is tough. I mean, especially as a competitor, you always want to win the big one, but it just sometimes it ain't meant to be for everybody. So, but let's see. So when we look at the way you've done throughout your playing days, I mean, is there like any other specific offensive lineman that you look in today's NFL where you're like saying, this guy is the real deal. He's really good.
Yeah, well, of course, I watch a lot of Dolphins football, and Trent Williams probably is one of the best tackles in the game. Played with the 49ers, but I was really happy to see Austin Jackson from the Dolphins develop. He didn't make the Pro Bowl. I think if he won a game or two more, he would have made it. But he had an outstanding year, and he was a guy we took out of USC, and you could tell he had the athletic ability. But he was 20 years old when we drafted him, so I knew he didn't have a lot of experience, this and that. But he continued to work, and last year he was having a really good year and had a high ankle sprain, and that kind of slowed him down to where he couldn't get his rhythm back. But this year he balled out. I watched Teron Armstead, the left tackle. I think Philadelphia has a pretty good offensive line. I like watching them, especially on short yardage. They figured out how to almost get, whether it's 3rd and 2, 4th and 1. They know how to convert that with that formation. They kind of come together with this and that. So yeah, long as they can play, I like to see good offensive line play. And I was watching even Detroit against the 49ers yesterday, and a lot of time they will put Penei Sewell at tight end, and so they had like 6 offensive line. They just said they just gonna try to get physical and impose their will on the 49ers, and I think that's how they kind of got ahead in the first half, like you said, like 17 points. But anytime it's good offensive line play, I can watch that all day long.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. It's like the most underappreciated position, like if you think about it.
Oh yeah, it's not a glory position. I mean, everybody wants to be the running back, the wide receiver, the quarterback, the guys catch the ball, or the other guys. But yeah, nobody wants to most of the time be an offensive lineman. They always talk about the other skill position, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's important, but like you said, most fans don't pay attention to that.
Yeah, but why do you feel it's like the most important position for football fans to realize?
Well, I tell people all the time, it starts in the trenches. You got to win the line of scrimmage, whether it's offense or defense, and whoever is going to win that typically is going to win the football game if they do it on a consistent basis. The thing with the skill position guys, as long as they catch it or whatever, and they don't turn the ball over or fumbles, that can affect. But you got to win that. If you're getting dominated at the line of scrimmage, typically you're not going to win the football game. So that's why we always say it starts up front, and that's what we talk about. It's the battle between the big boys to try to determine the football game.
The
Mhm.
big boys in the trenches have to make the outcome matter. Like, I mean, the pass blocking matters because it gives the quarterback time to throw and find his receiver. The run blocks matter because it does make it easy for the running backs to run through the holes and something like that. Because if people keep saying, "Well, offensive line ain't nothing," well, they do have a huge factor. They're like your wall. They're the ones that protect.
That's it. You can't let them break your wall down. If they get in the wall, you're gonna have some trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I like this question. Ask Mr. Wood, does he have any advice for the players in this big moment?
Uh, yeah, I've never been to the Super Bowl. I think the thing that I would tell young players, just from talking to guys that I know um, that have played in the Super Bowl, is whatever media coverage you went through during the season for the week of the Super Bowl, it's like 10 times, more, because you got media from all across the country that comes to the Super Bowl, and just getting through the media requests and stuff like that, that can be taxing. And then just trying to stay focused in the moment, because, you fly out to where it's in Vegas this year, and Vegas itself has got enough distractions already. But you got to remember, I'm here to do my job, play a game. If I want to come hang out in Vegas or whatever, I can do that after this game is over. But remain focused on what you got to get done, and try to prepare. Because they said even like during the before the game starts, they had a halftime show and all that. So everything is a little off. So you got to really just hone in on your focus and really be tuned in. And that's, guys, it's not like a typical regular playoff game. I think if you're not focused, you can kind of get lost in the moment. So that's what I would stress to players. And if you've been there before, it helps because you kind of know what the experience like. With Kansas City, it probably won't be as bad because they can kind of rein their younger guys in. But if you hadn't been, um, and I think Coach Shanahan, he's played even when he was in Atlanta. He's played in Super Bowl and stuff like that, so he knows what the experience is. But just getting guys to understand the importance of it, I think that's the key right there.
Yeah, the experience does make a difference in some ways with the guys who've been there and done it. So like you look at Kansas City, they've been had the most success than any other team. So it's like they've won 2 Super Bowls out of the last 5 years, 4 appearances. I mean, you can't say much. I mean, because Andy Reid is a great coach. You look at how Patrick Mahomes is becoming one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I mean, he's just very much like a spectacular quarterback. I mean, I can't think of another quarterback who makes throws like those. I can only think of Dan Marino at the closest because Marino did
Yeah,
it.
and even with Kansas City, it wasn't picture perfect this year. Their receivers and stuff had to mature because it was a lot of times in the earlier games he would throw the football, and it was almost like Travis Kelsey was his only sure-handed receiver, because it was several times he would hit guys wide open. They would drop the balls, but he remained patient with them, and got through the growing pains, and then they put it together at the right time, and now they're back in the Super Bowl. So this should be a really good matchup here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So when you look at this matchup between the Chiefs and the Niners, how do you feel about this matchup?
Whew. It's probably one of the best matchups probably coming up, because they both got great head coaches. Um, both coaches do a really good job of making adjustments, to kind of keep their teams in the game, and then put themselves back in the game. I think the thing, like you said, we were talking about earlier, CG, um, the 49ers had got down 17 points. Typically, when a team gets down like that, a lot of teams abandon what they normally do and just say, we got to throw to try to get back in the game. But he kept running the ball. He kept, using McCaffrey, Debo Samuels, and he just ran his offense, and then took advantage of the opportunities. And then they finally made a play. Um, how do you say the receiver? Is it a Yuk, the number 11?
Oh, you're talking
For
about
the
Brandon Ayuk. Yeah, Brandon Ayuk.
Oh yeah, when he made that play that swung the momentum, and it was like it like woke everybody up, and I'm like, oh, here we go. And so it was on from then on. So, but to be able to stick with it and then trust a young quarterback, like last year was, I think y'all were playing the Eagles, and Purdy got hurt early, because I think if he didn't get hurt, it's possible that was a real good game. But so I know he was happy to be back to be able to finish the game, but to come back from down 17, finish it out, take the lead and then get the win. But same thing with Andy Reid to go to Baltimore, which I thought was going to be pretty tough. That just a great game plan, and then they executed. Their defense stepped up and met the physicality of the Baltimore Ravens, this and that. And I thought at times Baltimore, some of their players made some penalties that cost them, like unnecessary roughness or whatever. Those kind of plays sometimes can factor in. You're not winning the game, this and that, but that's why I say when you make penalties, what you need to limit those, because it can definitely affect the outcome. I'm not saying that was the reason they lost, but it definitely didn't help when you're trying to come from behind, stuff like that. So I pay attention to that. But should be a really good matchup. I don't know who Vegas has favorite. Right now, I hadn't even looked at the line because I just watched the game yesterday, but should be a really good matchup.
Yeah, I'll check out the line. I think Vegas has a line I think they had the Niners listed as 2.5-point favorites.
Okay.
If I'm mistaken, because I looked it up and I was going to look it up pretty early, but I'll check out the point spread because I looked it up before I was about to head up to the game, or before the game was over. Once the game was over, they already had the Vegas point spread.
Oh, really? Man, wow.
I'll have to look it up, but so the Niners do have I guess the percentage. It says that I think from what I was told, today they spread it they've split it 2.5-point favorites with the Niners but I think it would be ridiculous to pick against the Chiefs because they have the championship pedigree. So I don't know.
Well, look at it like I just told you, 3 points, most games. So you got to really do your homework and say, okay. And that's why a lot of times they put that half a point on there, and depending on probably how people bet, that line will probably move a little bit. But
because I looked at it today and I seen what it was said once the game was over, and then I woke up the next morning and somebody said that the Niners are are listed as the 2.5-point favorites.
Okay. Yeah.
So then there's an injury that kind of hurt the Chiefs now. They lost one of their main players for this game now because he was a huge difference on their defense interior line. He had a breakout season with the Chiefs, and he was the huge factor of Lamar Jackson's fumble.
Oh, yeah. He did get hurt yesterday. I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't know how bad. Yeah, I don't remember how bad, but so he's not going to be available. Oh.
Yeah, and he made that nice splashy play where he kind of forced the fumble out of Lamar Jackson. Yeah, that's a tough one, but especially you don't want to lose key players like that in the biggest stage. But I'm pretty sure they got some depth pieces. But yeah, looking at the favorites, it says we're listed the favorites for this moment, but it could change anytime. So if I look at the record correctly, when Shanahan is the favorite in the postseason, he tends to win them. I don't know how, but we'll see.
Okay. That sounds good. You're a 49er fan. I know you're not going to argue with that.
I look at realistically, the Chiefs have a great track record. It's going to be hard to beat Mahomes. It's just Mahomes is a little hard, and he's already on a hot streak right now. So he's already clicking. So that's hard to beat when a guy's clicking with everybody.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good game. That's what I'm looking forward to. But yeah, it should be a really good game. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Kansas City's defense is a huge improvement from previous years because when everybody was talking about Kansas City, they talk about their offense, but their defense is a lot better.
Defense been playing really good last few weeks. You're right.
Yeah, especially the way they made some nice plays, and they made Baltimore only scored 10 points. So
yeah, they got that last field goal late. You're right. Yeah, so they shut them down. So yeah,
that's going to be a huge challenge. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Mahomes may not have the weapons like he once had, but he still has Kelsey. But that kid, Rashid Rice, is good.
Yeah. Rashid Rice, Pacheco. But, yeah, like you said, they got some young receivers, and they kind of finally started catching the ball and making plays toward the end of the season. But early on, it was frustrating because it probably cost them a couple of games to where they possibly – if they win a couple of those games, then they have the AFC Championship game in Kansas City versus having to travel to Baltimore. But they got the job done. But if you ask them, most people prefer to play at home than on the road. So yeah.
Yeah, that's what happens. But I guess for the Niners, they benefited that by having home field advantage, which was a huge thing.
It's very important. I tell people that all the time. If you can be at home, because you got your fan base, all that, the crowd noise, um, it just is different. You're at home, so most of the time you ain't looking for somebody to come whoop you in your own backyard. So that's the way you look at it. So, but yeah, they took care of business yesterday.
Yeah. Was that like an impressive game you saw by far? With like usually those comeback games are something that like you don't expect all the time, but it's kind of like how did that happen?
Yeah, you don't expect that, and I think the other thing was I think early on, Detroit went for it on fourth down and they converted. And then I think in the second half, they went for it on fourth down and didn't convert it. And so that was a swing for the 49ers. But then the third time in the second half, or the third overall time, they went for it for fourth. That they kicked the field goal. That, as a coach, you can always second guess it as somebody watching it on TV. But when you got to make that call, I saw his post game interview, and he was basically saying, I felt good. I felt we was gonna convert, and a couple of them, the ball hit the receiver in the hand. He just didn't make the catch. So if you do that, that keeps the chains moving, and you just don't know. So, but when it doesn't work, everybody looks at the coach and say, "Well, why did you go for it on fourth down?" But if he makes the catch and you convert him, nobody says anything. That's the thing. It's when it doesn't work, everybody calls everything into question. So, but he said, I already know I'm gonna get criticized, but I felt good for it, and that's why I did it, and I trust our players and stuff like that. But
I
it
mean,
didn't work out. So
yeah, I mean, I've kind of liked how Campbell is a coach, but he does get a little too aggressive, and that's what
yeah,
can really cost games. We saw that against the Cowboys, where he should have just kicked the field goal.
yeah. And like I said, you can come back in the regular season. You probably can be a little bit more aggressive, but in the playoffs, it's either one and done. You know what I'm saying? So you don't have a next week. So and that he hadn't been a head coach, was maybe his third year or something
He's in
like
his
that.
third
So
year.
yeah, so I think that's something you evaluate yourself and say, okay, if I'm in that position again, even if I feel it, what's the more safest or most smartest thing? Kick the field goal. You know.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
that's what
I
this.
think you go back and reflect after the season over with and some things. So yeah.
Yeah, got to change up a little more on that. But I mean, when you look at the way they were getting into the playoffs, I mean, they barely beat the Rams by the skin of their teeth, and then beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who actually just beat the Eagles. I mean, Tampa Bay was kind of like a team that just won a division that wasn't that good, but Baker Mayfield kind of showed signs for the Bucks that he can be the guy going forward. So I don't see no reason why he shouldn't be.
Yeah, and like I say, that's why I say you want home field. If
Yeah.
if Detroit would have had to go to Tampa to play, it's always tougher on the road most of the time. But it's tough playing in that dome up there. No, that crowd noise doesn't go anywhere. This and that, and Detroit came out on fire, and same way week before with the 49ers and Green Bay, they were going back and forth, and then at the end, the Green Bay made a couple mistakes, and 49ers capitalized on it and shut the door, and then give them another opportunity. So it's been some really good playoff games that's pretty much went down to the wire. You couldn't just shut it off and say some of them you could, but most of them they've been pretty good games. So yeah, I can respect that.
So out of all the playoff games, I guess the Niners have shown some really good games overall from deficit
They
wise.
they they battle tested. Yeah, when you test it and then you can overcome it. That helps your mental, because when you overcome, you say, okay, we've been here before. So if we just got to settle down, and then like you say, you get a play like that to swing the momentum. It's like, okay, now we going, we're going to take this thing over. So it's all in your psyche and your mental. And they've had two games like that. So they're going to fight to the end. So it's just the way it built.
Yeah, I think this is a complete different team. I think in previous years, everybody's has always said like, we're a team that chokes with Shanahan because he abandons what he does at times, or he does this and that. But the more I start to watch the way the team's playing, I'm like saying, last time I checked, we had this quarterback named Garoppolo, and we couldn't even come back from behind. So I don't know. This kid Purdy just seems something different.
He makes real good, smart decisions with the football, and normally he doesn't try to force things to put you in bad positions or cause a lot of turnovers. So with that, and then letting McCaffrey and Debo be your workhorse, and then you got Kittle, the tight end, so he's surrounded with weapons. It's just distributing it out to it and letting them do what they need to do, and it makes you look good. But yeah, he's played consistently good the last couple of years because yeah, he was the third string quarterback, and to come in and perform at the level he has, everybody's nobody bad. And he never met him, but he seems like a really good kid. You know,
Yeah,
well, young man. I ain't gonna say kid, but he sounds a really nice young man. So
yeah.
just the way he kind of carries himself.
Yeah, and he grew up a Dolphins fan too. So his dad's a
Did he
Dolphin.
really?
Yeah, if you watch
I
some of
did.
Brock, you gotta check it out, man. You gotta
I
check it
did
out.
not
Yeah.
know that. I did not know.
He grew up a Dolphins fan. You know why he wears number 13?
Dan Marino. It makes sense now
Yeah,
that you said
and
that. I did not know that. Wow.
you got to know more about that history there, man. But yeah, that's like he was a Dolphins fan, and he wears number 13 because of Dan Marino. And actually, Dan Marino had a conversation with him before.
Well, hopefully, was it not that the year before we came out there and played? So hopefully, he got an opportunity to say hello, and I bet that was big time for him.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
so that was cool. I
So
did not
just
know that.
yeah, you didn't know that?
I
That's
did
crazy.
not know that. I did not.
Yeah, you gotta check it out then, because his dad grew up. His dad was born in Miami or somewhere in the state of Florida and became a Dolphins fan. But
Because his parents are in Arizona or something now. I think I did see something about they got a spa company or
yeah,
some kind of
small
deal.
business in Arizona. But I think he moved in Arizona eventually because of the business. But
Gotcha.
the interesting fact was Brock Purdy was born somewhere in December. That was the same day Marino was playing football that day in 1999 in December.
Wow. Okay.
So that's where got him into. And then his dad was watching the game or something like that, which was weird. But and then I guess in some ways. But how do you think of Brock Purdy as a quarterback? Do you think he's just a game manager, system quarterback, or do you think he can be elite at some point?
He keeps improving year after year. That would probably be more for somebody that plays a quarterback position. I just look at, are you at what you do? I look at, do you turn the ball over? How do you situations? He checks all the boxes for me. So I don't think you have to be a superstar to win. I think you do what's necessary for your team to win and don't put them in bad positions. That's the win of a champion. And so, but yeah, a lot of people try to box people in, and I don't do that. I'm just like, no, he's since he stepped into that starting role, he's continued to get better and better and better. So he's he's a hell of a quarterback. I can tell you that. I don't try to define him no other way. Either you can play, you can't, and he could definitely play.
Yeah, he's already proven the odds. I mean, what else does this kid need to prove? I mean,
Well, and as a GM, it makes you look good and makes Shanahan to take a kid. What was he, a seventh round pick?
last pick in the draft, Mr. Irrelevant.
And he's not irrelevant anymore. So I'm like, it's like a kid, and you develop him like that, and you getting that type of production out of him. They got to love you. So I'm sure Lynch and Shanahan, everybody's happy. So y'all say what y'all want to, and we just happy we got him. I guarantee you get that from the 49ers.
I think he was either the lottery ticket. You know how you get that luck or something?
That's all you need is one ticket. You ain't got to buy $100 worth of it. You just need one ticket to hit, and that one hit.
Yeah. We thought we were gonna hit big with Trey Lance, and it just didn't quite work out as planned. So I guess this was the luck.
Well, and like I said, Trey had some injuries, but like you said, all it takes sometimes is somebody getting that opportunity. And if Trey Lance doesn't get hurt, maybe he doesn't get that opportunity. But when he got the opportunity, he made the most of it, and he took off from there. And people say what they want to, but yeah, that's the reason they traded Trey Lance to to the Cowboys because at least not saying he's not going to be a good player, but he just found our guy. So we're gonna go with this guy, and that's what you got to do.
Yeah,
So,
it could be. Yeah, it could be a little controversial when it comes to quarterback competition, stuff like that. But I guess it doesn't take a rocket science to realize maybe we found our guy. Maybe he knows how to operate better, and he's a lot quicker. So
two NFC championships. You lost against the Eagles, but you won this one.
yeah,
Well, I
he
don't
wasn't
think
hurt
too many
this time.
people.
Wasn't hurt this
And
time.
he got hurt. Yep. So
Yeah.
I don't think nobody gonna argue with you on that one.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, but but thank you for your time, bro. We've been having a good amount of time. Maybe in the near future we'll definitely need to get you back on. Maybe we'll do a little bit of interesting discussions, man. But hey, you've been nothing but nice and respectful, man. It's nice to have a lot of NFL legends like yourself just to be on the show and give me your perspective, experience, and what you think as a like other players' perspective. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, no, I like I said, enjoyed the conversation, and it wasn't just all about the Dolphins. We were just talking about football and just we can just relate to the game of sport. We all love it, this and that. And so, thank you for having me on the show. I enjoyed it as well. And hey, maybe again, but thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, looking forward to it, man. Well, I'll definitely reach out to you at some point, man. We'll definitely make it happen, man. But hey, for everybody else, thank you guys for tuning in. Me and Richmond are out.